Welcome to our deep dive into the hidden hero of building safety, ventilation. Today, we're unpacking the 2021 edition of Approved Document F of the building regulations in England.
So let's get right into it. We often forget that buildings, just like us, actually need to breathe. And I'm not talking about those random uncontrolled drafts through cracks and gaps. That's kind of like a shallow, ragged gasp of air. What the regulations are really demanding is a purposeful, controlled breath to keep everyone inside healthy. Because when a building can't breathe correctly, well, the consequences can be pretty serious.
And look, this isn't just about avoiding a bit of stuffiness or condensation on the windows. We're talking about protecting people from invisible threats that build up every single day. Pollutants from cooking, from cleaning products, even from our own breath. These things get trapped in the spaces where we live and work, and they can be genuinely hazardous to our health.
So, to make sure every building has a healthy set of lungs, so to speak, we have this rulebook. In England, the 2021 edition of Approved Document F is the standard, and it's smartly split into two crucial parts, depending on what kind of building you're dealing with.
What's really clever here is how the regulations acknowledge that different buildings just breathe in different ways. Volume 1 is specifically tailored for our homes, our personal spaces. But Volume 2, that covers pretty much everything else, from offices and hotels to gyms, recognizing that they have totally unique and often way more complex ventilation needs. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with how our homes are supposed to breathe. Then we'll jump into public and commercial spaces. After that, we're going to explore how modern buildings can actually sense the air, cover the all-important health checks for compliance, and then wrap it all up with the key takeaways that really matter for your project. All right, first up, our homes. Volume 1 lays out a really clear three-part strategy to make sure a home can breathe effectively and keep everyone inside healthy and safe. The best way to think about this is like a complete respiratory cycle for your house. First, you have extract ventilation. That's the targeted exhale of moist, polluted air from places like kitchens and bathrooms. Next is whole dwelling ventilation, which is like a constant, gentle inhale of fresh air. And finally, you've got purge ventilation. Think of it as a powerful cough to clear the air out quickly if you've, say, burnt the toast or are painting a room. This is all done using systems that range from simple trickle vents and fans to more advanced setups like continuous mechanical extract ventilation, or MEV, and of course, mechanical ventilation with heat recovery, which you probably know as MVHR. Now, when it comes to that exhale, the regulations get incredibly specific. It's no surprise that the highest extract rates are required for kitchens. That's where most of the moisture and pollutants are coming from. A cooker hood that vents outside has to pull at least 30 liters of air per second. But, and this is a big one, if a kitchen doesn't have a hood, that requirement literally doubles to 60 liters per second to make up for it. For this whole system to actually work, air has to be able to move freely through the house. And that's where this tiny, often overlooked detail becomes absolutely essential. A 10-millimeter gap under your internal doors. It basically acts like the building's bronchial tubes, letting fresh air circulate from bedrooms and living rooms to the extract fans in the wet rooms. It's a simple detail, but it is absolutely critical for the whole system to succeed.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about Volume 2, which covers buildings that aren't dwellings. We're talking larger, more complex buildings with equally complex respiratory needs. You've got more people, different pollution sources. It's a whole different ballgame.
And Volume 2 has to tackle some very specific challenges. In an office, it's not just about the size of the room. You need to supply 10 liters of fresh outdoor air per second for every single person in there. Got a room with some heavy-duty printers? That needs its own dedicated extract system. And in enclosed car parks, ventilation becomes a life safety issue, designed to keep toxic carbon monoxide levels from ever becoming a danger. Now, this is a huge update in the 2021 edition, and it's a direct response to a much greater awareness around public health. For systems that recirculate air between different rooms, there's a new, sharp focus on infection control. This system has to have a mode that can either switch to 100% fresh outdoor air or use technologies like UVC light or HEPA filters to actively clean the recirculated air. So, how does a building actually know if it's getting short of breath? How can we tell if the ventilation we've designed is actually doing its job in the real world? Well, the regulations now demand a way for many buildings to tell us directly. For a lot of public spaces, these mains-powered CO2 monitors using this specific NDIR sensor technology are now mandatory. And honestly, this is a total game changer. It takes compliance from just being a theory on a piece of paper and turns it into a measurable, real-world performance standard that you can see every single day. Because we all exhale CO2, its concentration in the air is a fantastic, real-time indicator of just how good the ventilation is. And the guidance on what to do with this data is crystal clear. Think of it as a traffic light for your air quality. If your monitor is consistently showing levels below 800 parts per million, you're in the green. That's a well-ventilated space. But if those readings are constantly creeping over 1,500 ppm while people are in the room, that's a red flag. It's a clear signal that the ventilation is poor and something needs to be done about it. Okay, so we've got monitors to check the building's vitals in real time. But how do we prove the system was healthy from day one? Well, that's where the mandatory health checkup comes in: commissioning and documentation.
And let's be clear, compliance is a formal, documented process. It's not optional. Under Regulation 44, mechanical ventilation systems have to be physically tested to prove the airflow rates match what was designed. Then, a commissioning notice with all the results gets submitted to building control. And finally, the building owner gets all the information they need to actually operate and maintain the system properly.
And this is especially important for homeowners, right? A home user guide is now mandatory for new homes. It explains what the system is, how to use it when you need to clean filters, and exactly why you shouldn't block up those little trickle vents. It really empowers the homeowner, making them an active partner in keeping their own home healthy.
Right. We have covered a ton of ground. So let's quickly boil it all down to the absolute must-remember points from this explainer on Approved Document F.
These 5 points are really the bedrock of compliance. First, this is about health and safety, full stop. Second, the rules for homes are very different from other buildings. Third, as you make buildings more airtight, you have to compensate with purpose-built ventilation. Fourth, those CO2 monitors are the new standard for checking performance in public spaces. And finally, you must test and prove your system works. It's totally non-negotiable.
So let's just come back to our main idea. Those leaky, uncontrolled drafts just aren't good enough anymore. The regulations demand a proper, purpose-provided respiratory system. At the end of the day, good ventilation is about protecting the building from damp and mold for sure, but most importantly, it's about protecting the health and well-being of every single person inside it.
And this is the fundamental question that every single designer, builder, developer, and homeowner needs to be able to answer with 100% confidence. Getting this right isn't just about ticking a box. It's about creating healthy, safe, and resilient buildings for all of us.
For more videos diving deep into the technical requirements of building regulations, visit the Building Regulations Copilot YouTube channel, and for any building regulations related queries, head over to buildingregulationscopilot.com. Thanks so much for watching.